about Elon just opening the door to a journalist
Same posture, bro. You know?
to see all the emails that were sent, the quote unquote Twitter files?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I saw a lot of. I'm like in this weird thing where I see. I follow a lot of independent people and I follow a lot of mainstream journalists, and there's very polar opposite takes on that.
Yeah. Yep.
People really quickly politicize it, but to me, the
Yes.
thing that was fascinating is just the transparency that I've never seen from one of the really frustrating things to me, because a lot of this podcast.
You know what? Like, I have to give props to like Elon Musk there. Like, obviously, like, just releasing the data there. Like, but I just don't like the politicization of the entire thing. Where it's like, oh yeah, let me just release it. It's basically like a celebration of something. It's like, oh guys, we're gonna upload the. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, dude. It's like, it just like hit me the wrong way. But then again, the transparency aspect of it is like really good. The transparency aspect of a big giant social media company like being that transparent with its user base. I mean, with its previous ownership and how the previous management, how it handled something so scandalous is props to Elon Musk there.
Tech people, CEOs, and so on, and they're just so guarded with everything. It's hard to get to, and so it's nice to get. Hopefully, this is a signal. Look, you can be transparent. Like, this is a signal to increase transparency.
Hopefully so. I don't. Yeah, it's been tribalized so quickly. It's like I've lost a lot
Yeah, I mean,
of faith in that.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's been this like bludgeon match of like, if you're on the right, you think it's uncovering the greatest story ever about Hunter Biden. If you're on the left,
Yeah.
you think they were just they were just silencing.
yeah, it's nothing really. If you're on the left, it's nothing really, but you're right, it's like the greatest story of all time. Since the Watergate scandal.
Binge porn pics of Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Therefore, it was justified. And by the way, Trump also sent messages to Twitter. So doesn't that mean that like we should be criticizing Trump? It just like
Right.
goes back to why I don't touch politics, is because I think.
Yeah, that's Coffeezilla, subtly saying that he doesn't want to talk about this topic, to be honest, because this topic is really politicized. It is really politicized. So it's like, I don't know, it's incredible to watch someone who's like so ethically bound by his morals and principles talk about something like so politicized, so unnecessary. So yeah.
I think when you become a journalist, that not even a political journalist, when you become a journalist in politics, you have like twice the problem. So I'm happy to be well outside of that kind of sphere.
But it's an interesting.
It is interesting.
Forget Twitter files, but Twitter itself is really, really interesting from the virality of information transfer.
Yeah.
And from a journalistic perspective, it's like how information travels, how it becomes distributed. It's interesting.
What do you think about Twitter? I'm always conflicted on Twitter because I almost hate how much I enjoy using it.
Same, me too.
Like this is like this mindless bird app. It's consuming my time.
Yes.
It's this incredible networking tool.
That and Reddit, yeah, it's an incredible networking tool, absolutely,
But what's
that and Discord, are like incredibly great at like, connecting people from all over the world. I mean, it's incredible. Twitter especially, even YouTube in a way, I guess,
weird is when I think about my own presence on Twitter, they've almost made it too easy to like say something that you've half thought. Like the friction to send a tweet is so much less than like
yes.
if I'm gonna make a YouTube video.
It's so easy to say stupid shit, That's what like Coffeezilla is like trying to say.
There's several points at which I'm like, well, what's the other side? What's this? What's that?
No.
There's no friction there. And so one thing I've noticed, everyone I follow on Twitter, a lot of them, after reading all their tweets, I think nothing more of them, nothing less of them. But there's a lot of them that I think less of. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever had an experience where I've read someone tweets and I think more of them in a way. And I'm like, what does that say that?
Yeah, what is that? Like, there's so many people I admire that
Sam
the
Harris.
worst of them is represented in Twitter. Like,
no, I'm not saying like Sam Harris is like the worst of them. I'm a huge Sam Harris fan, so.
There's a lot of people.
There's a million examples.
They become like snarky and sometimes mocking and derisive and
Correct.
negative and like emotional messes. Um, I don't know. Yeah, what is that? Maybe, maybe we shouldn't criticize it and accept that as like a beautiful, raw aspect of that human being, but not encompassing, not representing the full
But it
entirety of that
does
human being.
reflect, like, it's impossible to not reflect it to some extent, or you'd have to counter that bias really carefully because that is them. It is a thought they had. It's just probably something that should have been an unexpressed.
Yeah, I mean, we all say stupid crap, right? Like all the time. Like I say some stupid things. Like I've heard like I've said like a million. I mean, it's one thing to say stupid things and to be a stupid person, and another to be a stupid person. It's basically yeah, it's one thing to be stupid and say something stupid. You know, yeah, it's like basically one thing to say something stupid and another to be stupid. So yeah, I mean, when you really think about it that way, it's like, especially when you compare the stream of consciousness experience that we are living essentially through our lives. So it's like it's one thought after another, after another, after another. So it's like it's extremely. Twitter is such an extremely toxic app in that sense because, uh, because it just enables some of the worst intuitions that you can, that just comes, to your head, with no like Coffeezilla said, like with no restriction or friction at all. You can say something extremely stupid and lose your job. That's why I heavily advise all CEOs, or if you're even a movie star or something, right, to not use Twitter. To give Twitter to your PR team or something like that, because it's so easy in these days where virtue signaling is like so necessary. It's it's so easy to lose out of favor so quickly.
Thought perhaps. So yeah, I kind of wonder like I'm like, should I be on Twitter? But the problem is it's such a great place where so many
Thoughts.
so much of the news happens on Twitter.
Yes.
So much of the journalism breaks on Twitter. Even
That, I feel like that's the really sad part about any kind of technology. It's like once it becomes mainstream enough, once it becomes big enough, like you really can't not use it. So in a way, I guess that's that. Yeah, it's a basically like cell phones. I mean, because I used to like remember a time when cell phones weren't like a necessity to like work or something. Nowadays, like you need it. Your boss knows your like mobile number. Like that's insane to me. Like when you're like about to go to, like I remember like one of the days that I used to work, that I was gonna like sleep. I was gonna hit the bed, but like I got a message that says hey, Uday, you gotta come to work. And I was like, wow, this is insane, my dude. And I can't actually believe that you are making me work at 12 in the night. And he said like, yeah, it's like we had like it was work from home. It's during the 2019 outbreak, so obviously you had to you had, especially at a time where like recession was so high, so your employers are going to use that against you, bro. So the main point comes back, like the bigger something, the more mainstream something becomes, the more social price you have to pay for not using it.
people in the New York Times, they'll tweet their scoop.
Yeah.
They'll put that out on Twitter first. So it's this really weird thing where I'd love to be off it, and it's like too useful for my job, but I kind of hate it.
No, you need to. Well, it depends, but from my perspective, you should be on it.
Oh, I
Certainly
definitely am. Yeah.
So, like, a Coffeezilla should definitely be on Twitter,
course.
but have developed the calluses and the strength to not
Take-
give in to the sort of the lesser aspects, like, because you're like you're silly, you're funny, you could be cutting with your humor. I wouldn't give into the like the darker aspects of that, like low effort negativity. If you're the way you are in your videos, I would say if you're ever negative
Man, Lex is such a good guy, bro. Lex is such a nice guy,
or making fun of stuff, I think that's high effort. So I would still put a lot of effort into it, like calmly thinking
Sure.
through that, because, and also not giving into the dopamine desire to do
Yes.
to say something that's going to get a lot of likes.
Yep.
I have that all the time. You use Twitter enough, you realize certain messages that are going to get more likes than others, and
are usually the ones that are more extreme.
yeah,
And
Yep.
like emotional, like
Yes.
Lex is an idiot, or like Lex is the greatest human being ever.
Yeah.
It's much
Yeah.
better than, oh wow, what a polite, nuanced conversation. I can tell you right now which of those 3 tweets it isn't going to perform well.
Yes.
yeah. So I think the extremes are okay if you believe.
Good
it.
job.
Okay,
You know? That's
I
a
will
good
sometimes
distinction.
Say, positive things. I said that the Twitter files release was historic. Of course, this before I realized. I mean, I the reason I said it is because the transparency. It's so refreshing to see any level of transparency. And then,
Wrong
of
IT.
course,
Yeah. Got it.
those kinds of comments, the way Twitter does, is every side will interpret it in the worst possible way for them, and they will run with it. Or some side, when it's political, one side will interpret, yes, I agree with
You're right,
Lex.
it's historic.
It's
They might
historic.
not have even read the article. They
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
or the tweet thread, and they're just like, it is historic.
Man, audience capture is a real problem, dude. I mean, that and echo chambers, man. Absolutely.
Historic because Hunter Biden was finally the collusion or whatever it is,
yeah.
and then the other side is like, no, it's
No,
another
it's
story.
not. You're dumb.
But that aspect of nuance and that it's frozen in time. Even with editing, there's
So tough.
it's tricky. But if you maintain a cool head through all of that, and hold to your ethics and your ideas, and use it to spread the ideas, which you do extremely well on YouTube.
But then again, another problem is we don't know when certain ideas go out of fashion. You know, when certain ideas are like banned, when certain ideas are cancelled. So again, I personally don't want to use like Twitter. I will lurk Twitter, but I will never like use proactively. I mean, no one cares, but I'm pretty sure. But I personally, as a moral principle, I don't want to use Twitter, because man, the price, dude, the social price for like saying the wrong thing or making the wrong joke, or even like it could be even the most innocuous thing ever, and it'll get you banned. It'll get you like essentially shit canned, and that's not good for your career, my dude. So
I think it could be a really powerful platform. There's no other platform that allows for the viral spread of ideas,
It's unique.
good ideas.
Unique.
viral spread of good ideas. I disagree with that.
Then that
Yeah, I don't think Twitter has anything to do with like viral spread of good ideas. I think it has to do with like viral spread of viral ideas. Twitter does, Twitter does like outreach really, really well. Outreach and but I'll be honest, Twitter is extremely entertaining right now. With Elon Musk at its helm. So
than this, and this is where, like especially with Twitter Spaces. I mean, where else would I see? I think twice impromptu conversations with Coffeezilla and SBF. Like
Never. Yeah, nowhere else. Because he wasn't going to come on my show. He wasn't going to come on some big prepared thing. It's like, hey, YOLO, let's go into Twitter Space, and I like pop up and
hell nah.
and just,
That dude is afraid. Like that dude is like afraid to go to jail, bro. He's not gonna come anywhere near you, buddy.
this release is late enough. Or well, SPF probably won't see this. Although I'm sure he's.
and unfortunately, he will.
Oh,
But
okay.
Yes.
Well, hopefully I'll have time to enact my little plan. But
Okay.
I'm hoping if he goes on any future spaces, I can like haunt him from interview to interview. Where just like I keep showing up, and he's like, oh.
True, that's
But I
so
think
good.
he's already kind of probably
Yeah, yeah.
has
Looking
like
for ways to
PTSD
filter.
of like in the shadows lurks a Coffeezilla.
That just it's just like that really amuses me.
I mean,
That's so
there's,
good, dude.
I think he honestly would enjoy talking to you. There's a aspect of Twitter Spaces that's a little uncertain of like, what are we doing here? Because
Right.
there's an urgency because other voices might want to butt in.
Exactly.
If it's an intimate one-on-one where you can like breathe, like hold on a second.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier. So in that sense,
I don't
Squarespace
think
is
SPF
where
wants to talk anything with like Coffeezilla, my
there-
dude.
there-
I think
there's
that
too
dude
many
wants to stay
voices,
away from him.
especially if it's a very controversial kind of thing. So it's tricky. But at the same time, the friction, it's so easy to just jump in.
Yeah.
So I could just, you just imagine like a Twitter space with like Zelensky and Putin. Like, how else are
Oh
these
my
two
gosh.
going to
Yeah,
talk,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, can't you imagine?
If you try to set it up on Zoom, like
Right.
it's never happening.
It's never happening.
Too many delegates. Like
Just
the
imagine
only way
like,
it happens.
Putin like sitting there like
Zelensky's live.
just live, right? Just jumping in.
It's hilarious.
Damn, dude, that's actually a good point, you know?
По-русски поговорим.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually a really good point, you know? Yeah, that's actually a really good point, to be honest, you know? Like, world leaders can like jump and, you know. I mean, didn't like literally in the Trump's presidency, like he used like Twitter like to great effect, you know? So there is that. And there is a car that's honking here. Yeah, that's the video, buddy. Thanks for watching.